good evening. So this is Saturday night and everyone has gone to bed except for the baby goats. You can see they are still up and at it. So what we need to do is read some bedtime stories to the baby goats. And here we have 7 doelings. Right up front, right here, right there is Pom Pom. And Pom Pom is pretty darn special. She was the third doeling born on the farm, and she has a twin brother named Penguin. Up front now you can see Aster. Hello, Aster. You big back. She is so good at eating all kinds of things. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say about Aster except she is sweet and cute. And if you look up here, you can see they are all cuddled by the heat pad. They stay warm. Yes. Even though we're in Canada and it gets very cold, the goats stay warm. So, it's time to do some storytelling, okay? I've got in my hands Junior Classics Volume 1 Fairy Tales. So, we're going to start with a classic from the classics. Okay? Here we go. Sorry, I shouldn't be crying on stream. That's embarrassing. Oh my gosh, I should stop that. Okay. I'm a little shy. This will be the first time I've read fairy tales and fables to anyone except my children. So, what is the first fairy tale and fable? Let's take a look. Hansel and Gretel. Okay, this would be the 1918 edition. Today I will not be reading the preface. Once upon a time, there dwelt near a large wood a poor woodcutter with his wife and 2 children by his former marriage. A little boy named Hansel and a girl named Gretel. He had little enough to break or bite, and once, when there was a great famine in the land, he could not procure even his daily bread, and as he lay thinking in his bed one evening, rolling about for trouble, he sighed and said to his wife, "What will become of us? How can we feed our children when we have no more than we can eat ourselves?" "No, my husband," then answered she, "we will lead them away quite early in the morning into the thickest part of the wood, and there make them a fire and give them each a little piece of bread. Then we will go to our work and leave them alone, so they'll not find the way home again, and we shall be freed from them." "No, wife," replied he, "that I can never do. How can you bring your heart to leave my children all alone in the wood? For the wild beasts will soon come and tear them to pieces." "Oh, you simpleton," she said, "then we must all 4 die of hunger. You'd better plane the coffins for us." But she left him no peace till he consented, saying, "Ah, but I shall regret the poor children." The 2 children, however, had not gone to sleep for very hunger, and so they overheard what the stepmother said to their father. Gretel wept bitterly and said to Hansel, "What will become of us?" "Be quiet, Gretel," said he. "Do not cry. I will soon help you." And as soon as their parents had fallen asleep, he got up, put on his coat, and unbarring the back door, slipped out. The moon shone brightly, and the white pebbles which lay before the door seemed like silver pieces. They glittered so brightly. Hansel stooped down and put as many into his pocket as he could hold, and then going back he said to Gretel, "Be comforted, dear sister, and sleep in peace. God will not forsake us." And so saying, he went to bed again. The next morning, before the sun arose, the wife went and awoke the 2 children. "Get up, you lazy things. We are going into the forest to chop wood." Then she gave them each a piece of bread, saying, "There's something for your dinner. Do not eat it before your time, for you will get nothing else." Gretel took the bread in her apron, for Hansel's pocket was full of pebbles, and soon they set upon their way. When they had gone a little distance, Hansel stood still and peeped back at the house. This he repeated several times, till his father said, "Hansel, what are you peeping at, and why do you lag behind? Take care and remember your legs." "Ah, father," said Hansel, "I'm looking at my white cat sitting upon the roof of the house and trying to say goodbye." "You simpleton," said the wife. "That's not a cat, it's only the sun shining on the white chimney." But in reality, Hansel was not looking at the cat, but every time he stopped, he dropped a pebble out of his pocket onto the path. When they came to the middle of the wood, the father told the children to collect the wood, and he would make them a fire so that they should not be cold. So Hansel and Gretel gathered together quite a little mountain of twigs. Then they set fire to them. So Hansel and Gretel gathered a mountain and set fire to them. And as the flame burned up high, the wife said, "Now you children lie down near the fire and rest yourself, while we go into the forest and chop wood. When we are ready, I will come and call you." Hansel and Gretel sat down by the fire, and when it was noon, each ate the piece of bread, and because they could hear blows of an axe, they thought their father was near. But it was not an axe, but a branch which he had bound to a withered tree, so as to be blown to and fro by the wind. They waited so long that at last their eyes closed from weariness, and they fell fast asleep. When they awoke, it was quite dark, and Gretel began to cry. "How shall we get out of the wood?" But Hansel tried to comfort her by saying, "Wait a little while till the moon rises, and then we will quickly find the way." The moon shone forth still, and Hansel, taking his sister's hand, followed the pebbles, which glittered like new coined silver pieces, and showed them the path. All night long they walked on, and as day broke, they came to their father's house. They knocked at the door, and when the wife opened it, they saw Hansel and Gretel. She exclaimed, "You wicked children, why did you sleep so long in the wood? We thought you were never coming home again." But their father was very glad, for it had grieved his heart to leave them alone at once. Not long afterward, there was again great scarcity in every corner of the land, and one night the children overheard their mother saying to their father, "Everything is again consumed. We have only half a loaf left." And then the song is ended. The children must be sent away. We will take them deeper into the wood, so they may not find their way out again. It is the only means of escape for us. Oh, poor Hansel and Gretel. That is so devastating. I don't like that at all, my guy. I'm just going to see if we have anyone who wants to join from Twitter. And then we'll continue. You can see the baby goats really don't mind cuddling up together. They are super, super sweet. Okay. Just a second. We are reading Hansel and Gretel. Are we ever? Junior Classics. Whoopsies. Almost there. Thank you for your patience. Alright, and then dun 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. Oh, it's still posting. What? Did I mess that up? Cancel notifications. See on page. Alright, fine. I'll give that a quick refresh and move on with Hansel and Gretel. Sorry, that was a bit of a detour there. Did it work though? Oh yes. Yes it did. Perfecto. Thank you for bearing with me. Whew. The husband felt very heavy at heart. It was better to share a little less crust with the children. His wife, however, would listen to nothing that he had said, and scolded him and reproached him without end. The children, however, had heard the conversation as they lay awake, and as soon as the old people went to sleep, Hansel got up intending to pick up some pebbles as before. But the wife had locked the door so that he could not get out. Nevertheless, he comforted Gretel, saying, "Do not cry, sleep in quiet. The good God will not forsake us." Early in the morning, the stepmother came and pulled them out of bed and gave them each a slice of bread, which was still smaller than the former piece. On the way, Hansel broke his in his pocket, and stopping every now and then, dropping a crumb along the path. "Hansel, why do you stop and look about?" said the father. "Keep on the path." "I'm looking for my little dove," answered Hansel, nodding a goodbye to me. "You simpleton," said the wife. "There is no dove, but only the sun shining on the chimney." So Hansel kept still dropping crumbs as he went along. The mother led the children deep into the wood, where they had never seen before, and there, making an immense fire, she said to them, "Sit down here and rest, and when you feel tired, you can sleep for a little while. We are going into the forest to hew wood, and in the evening, when we are ready, we will come and fetch you." Okay. When noon came, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had strewn his on the path. Then they went to sleep, but the evening arrived, and no one came to visit the poor children, and in the dark night they awoke, and Hansel comforted his sister by saying, "Only wait, Gretel, till the moon comes out, and then we shall see the crumbs of bread which I have dropped, and they will show us the way home." The moon shone, and they got up, but they could not see any crumbs, for the thousands of birds which had been flying about in the woods and fields had picked them all up. Hansel kept saying to Gretel, "We will soon find the way," but they did not, and they walked the whole night long, and the next day, but they did not come out of the wood. And they got hungry, for they had nothing to eat but berries, which they found upon the bushes. Soon they got so tired that they could not drag themselves along, so they lay down under a tree and went to sleep. It was now the third morning since they left their father's house, and still they walked on, but they only got deeper and deeper into the wood, and Hansel saw that if help did not come very soon, they would die of hunger. As soon as it was noon, they saw a beautiful snow-white bird sitting on a bough, which sang so sweetly that they stood still and listened to it. It soon left, and spreading its wings, flew off, and they followed it until arriving at a cottage, upon the roof of which it perched. And when they went close to it, they saw that the cottage was made of bread and cakes, and the window panes were of clear sugar. "We will go in there," said Hansel, "and have a glorious feast. I will eat a piece of the roof, and you can eat the window. Will they not be sweet?" So Hansel reached up and broke a piece off the roof in order to see how it tasted, while Gretel stepped up to the window and began to bite it. Then a sweet voice called out in the room, "Tip-tap, tip-tap, who raps at my door?" And the children answered, the wind, the child of heaven." And they went on eating without interruption. Hansel thought the roof tasted very nice, and so he tore off a great piece. And Gretel broke a large round pane out of the window, and sat down quite contentedly. Just then the door opened, and a very old woman walking upon crutches came out. Hansel and Gretel were so frightened that they let fall what they had in their hands. But the old woman, nodding her head, said, "Ah, you dear children, what has brought you here? Come in and stop with me, and no harm shall befall you." And so saying, she took them both by the hand and led them into her cottage. A good meal of milk and pancakes with sugar, apples, and nuts was spread on the table. And in the back room were two nice little beds covered with white, where Hansel and Gretel laid themselves down and thought themselves in heaven. The old woman behaved very kindly to them, but in reality she was a wicked witch who waylaid children and built the bread house in order to entice them in. But as soon as they were in her power, she killed them, cooked them, and ate them. Oh, she loves delicious children. That's terrible. When Hansel and Gretel came near the witch's house, she laughed wickedly, saying, "Here come two who shall not escape me." Early in the morning, before they awoke, she went up to them and saw how lovingly they lay sleeping with their chubby red cheeks, and she mumbled to herself, "That will be a good bite." Then she took up Hansel with her rough hand and shut him in a little cage with a lattice door. and although he screamed loudly, it was for no use. Gretel came next, and shaking her till awoke, she said, "Get up, you lazy thing, and fetch some water to cook something good for your brother, who must remain in that stall and get fat. When he is fat enough, I shall eat him." Gretel began to cry, but it was all useless, for the old witch made her do as she wished. So a nice meal was cooked for Hansel, but Gretel got nothing else but a crab's claw. And a crab's claw could be delicious. Every morning the old witch came to the cage and said, "Hansel, stretch out your finger, that I may feel whether you are getting fat." But Hansel used to stretch out a bone, and the old woman, having very bad sight, thought it was his finger, and wondered very much that it did not get fat. When 4 weeks had passed, and Hansel still kept quite lean, she lost all her patience and would not wait any longer. "Gretel," she set out in a passion, "get some water quickly. But Hansel, be Hansel, fat or lean, this morning. I will kill him and cook him." Oh, how the poor little sister grieved as she was forced to fetch the water, and how fast the tears ran down her cheeks. "Dear good God, help us now," she exclaimed. "Had we only been eaten by the wild beasts in the wood, then we would have died together." But the old witch called out, "Leave off that noise, it will not help you one bit." So early in the morning, Gretel was forced to go out and fill the kettle and make a fire. "First we will bake, however," said the old woman. "I have already heated the oven and kneaded the dough." And so saying, she pulled poor Gretel up to the oven, out of which the flames were burning fiercely. "Creep in," said the witch, "and see if it is hot enough, and then we will put in the bread." But she intended, when Gretel got in, to shut the oven and let her bake, so that she might eat her as well as Hansel. Gretel perceived what her thoughts were and said, "I do not know how to do it. How shall I get in?" "You stupid goose," she said. "The opening is big enough. See, I could even get in myself." And she got up and put her head into the oven. Then Gretel gave her a push, so that she fell right in. And then, shutting the iron door, she bolted it. Oh, how horribly she howled! But Gretel ran away and left the ungodly witch to burn to ashes. Now she ran to Hansel, and opening his door, called out, "Hansel, we are saved! The old witch is dead!" So he sprang out like a bird out of his cage when the door is opened. And they were so glad they fell upon each other's neck and kissed each other over and over again. And now, as there was nothing to fear, they went into the witch's house, where in every corner were caskets full of pearls and precious stones. "These are better than pebbles," said Hansel, putting as many into his pocket as he could hold, while Gretel thought, "I'll take some home too," and filled her apron full. "We must be off now," said Hansel, "and get out of this bewitched forest." But when they had walked for 2 hours, they came to a large piece of water. "We cannot get over," said Hansel. "I see no bridge at all." "And there is no boat either," said Gretel, "but there swims a white duck. I will ask her to help us over." She sang, "Little duck, good little duck, Gretel and Hansel, here we stand. There is neither stile nor bridge, take us on your back to land." So the duck came to them, and Hansel sat himself on and bade his sister sit behind him. "No," answered Gretel, "that will be too much for the duck, and she shall take us over one at a time." This the good little bird did as she was told, and they both were happily arrived on the other side, and had gone a little way, and they came to a well-known wood, which they knew the better every step they went, and at last they perceived their father's house. Then they began to run, and bursting into the house, they fell upon their father's neck. He had not had one happy hour since he left the children in the forest, and his wife was dead. Gretel shook her apron, and the pearls and precious stones rolled out onto the floor, and Hansel threw down one handful after the other out of his pocket, and all their sorrows were ended, and they lived together in great happiness. Okay, that was Hansel and Gretel. So, I always like the classic versions. I feel like they just have a little bit more to them. And you can see the goats are getting very sleepy. So, just before we wrap up for our bedtime stories, it was a very interesting day in our home. There is a rite of passage that all preteens have to go through. It's very, very important. For my eldest, she actually had this experience in grade 4. We call it 99 problems. So, what exactly is 99 problems? Ooh, 99 problems. It's kind of embarrassing because I remember when I had 99 problems. It's when you learn about organization. So, my oldest, when we were in our 2020 era and people were learning at home on computers, she figured out how to spoof her teachers. All she had to do was go check, 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 and it looked like all her assignments were done. And nobody bothered to follow through and check up on that until the end of term. And we got to the end of term and noticed that she indeed had 99 incomplete assignments. So she learned that you can't leave things for later. You got to do your job. And yeah, now she's very responsible, but she had to learn. Well, my son, he's figured this out now. He's in grade 6, and we found a graveyard of crumpled math sheets under his bookshelf. He reads all night, every night, as late as he can. I'm very proud of him, can you tell? But his math, it was actually pretty good, but he wasn't finishing his assignments. He was giving it the old college try, and when he was done with it, crumpled it up, put it away, never thought of it again. Which is fine until you get to the end of the term, and you see that there is a large volume of work yet to be done. So he is crashing out, and we are making an extended booklet to help him catch up. And I'm very grateful that he's got that chance to do that. But when I've taught, I feel like the sooner and younger you are learning this lesson of organizing yourself, finishing your projects properly, and understanding that it's kind of important to get the work done, the younger you are when that happens, the better. But the worst time for that to happen is high school. So in Canada, the whole teaching ethos is you don't want anyone to fail ever. You don't want anyone to experience discomfort. You don't want anyone to feel bad. Because, if you feel bad, we might be dealing with someone with unaddressed trauma. We might not know their story. And because there's so much we might not know, it's not for us to make assumptions. And we don't want to upset the apple cart. So we are absolutely not allowed to fail kids, actually. We have to do everything in our power up until high school to make sure they get put through the program. And sometimes that looks like a lot of support and no failure at a young age that would give them the chance to figure out how to actually do something. So the kids aren't allowed to fail, and all of a sudden they enter high school when they are academically challenged for the first time. And it's extremely sad because that's the first time that many of them do fail. And they really do fail. They find out for the first time that there's things in their life that they're not good enough to do. They might not actually get to be a doctor, and they were pretty sure that they could be a doctor. They thought that they were a lot smarter than they were because that's what the school system had been telling them their entire lives. You are so smart. You are so capable. You cannot fail. We will make this work for you. So in accommodating these kids, sorry, now I'm smiling. That's awkward. In accommodating these kids, we actually have taken away their ability to shine bright and do well. They have been totally coddled out of competence. Coddled out of competence. You don't want the first time where you fail miserably to be when you're 16. You need to have a big collection of stacked failures and opportunities to know what it is about yourself you need to work on. That's a horrible surprise as a mid to late teenager. I could talk about that all day, but I probably shouldn't. Oh, I don't know, guys. So, I think I've done amazing. Look, my goats are all sleeping. You see that? I think goats like story time. Sleeping goats like story time. I think it'd be fun to read Cinderella, but I feel like Cinderella is quite the long traditional story to read, so we'll see how we get there. So I've got about 5 minutes left, and I think I'll do a basic summary of this week. So our septic system, it first had some kind of clog and filled up and flooded our basement. And then we had the water guys come with their yuck truck and remove the yuck and suck it out. And that was fine, except then the next morning our basement flooded again. So that was a surprise. Then we called the plumber to come back in, and the plumber got his scope, and the plumber found that, well, as it would turn out, in the yuck truck, they had missed a grease clog or something to that effect. So that's pretty disgusting. I'm not really sure what to say past that, except our water is working now. I was very happy to have a shower. My children got to have a bath. I did like 8 loads of laundry. We can wash our dishes, which means we can cook at home. When you have a household of 7 people, not having running water is a disaster, okay? And just try and imagine, how am I going to milk goats without clean dishes? Needless to say, the Bucklings got to stay with their mommies overnight, and I was only milking 2 does for the last 3 days. So that was good. I saved some time there, but ultimately I do not recommend. It would be so much better to just have a plumbing system that worked, because that was pretty awful. And in my first week back to teaching, it's just a really warm reception, very kind students, very patient. Though I do think I could work on some of my mannerisms, because we be what we be, and I'm not for everyone, clearly. I mean, there's people who find my classes to be their cup of tea, and others who are like, what? How am I here? This makes no sense. Help, help. So, anyway, it was a week. My son had his 99 problems. I got back to work after an 18-month maternity leave, and my first day our septic system backed up. And I'm still working the angles of setting out how much assessment I can do, because I'd like to do a lot. I'd like to make sure the kids get lots of feedback and make sure all my diagnostics get done. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. Get up as early as I can to get this party started, and, well, I think it's close to time to get this party ended. So, with that, have a good sleep, everyone, and I think I'd like to read a bedtime story to my goats again tomorrow. So, if you have a video preference, I am tired, a storytime preference from Junior Classics, perhaps we can skip ahead and read that one. If you don't have a preference, that's okay. I'll just go on with the next one. Oh my goodness. But it's time to shut the barn door. It's time to turn off the lights, and it's time to let the mommy goats sleep. And it's time to put my kids to bed. My older kids, the little ones, fell asleep right away. They were so tired. It's a long day, my goodness. Anyway, good night, everyone.